Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw us some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Nile.
And I'm Kyle. And this week, Nile, I just want to say up front that I think that, I've gotten a lot of messages, private DMs from listeners and emails directed specifically to me saying,
Oh, they got like your personal email?
Yeah, they found my personal email. I don't know where that leaked, but they're reaching out to me. They're saying, oh, Kyle, you're so negative all the time. You're just always saying negative stuff. You're such a pessimist. Like, why can't you bring some positivity to the show? And I thought that I you know what? I think that's fair, Niall. I think I took these emails to heart, and I think that that's kind of fair. I guess I do have a tendency to bring a lot of... Hold up a sec. Oh, I'm getting a notification. Oh, okay. So Prince Charles has cancer. I'm just getting this in right now.
You're just hearing this now? Okay.
I'm just getting this in. Yeah. This is just coming in on my news feed right now.
I'm not gonna like fully blow up the spot of when we're recording this, but that isn't exactly new information.
Oh, okay. Well, it's new to me. I'm getting it on my news feed, which I actually set my news feed back 10 hours.
You say like, I'm gonna chill out here. You got to send me the news just a little behind the time, so I have time to process it.
Yeah, it's also in good news. It looks like there's some good progress being made over at Lockheed Martin based on my news here.
Okay, what's going on with Lockheed Martin?
Lockheed Martin,
friends of the show.
Oh Jesus! Lockheed Martin can grow aircraft skin with integrated sensors and energy storage. Wire-free. New materials mimic muscles, enabling shape-changing autonomous aircraft and swarms of small learning drones that interact with larger vehicles. So that's
wait, is that a real thing?
This is just a thing that I read on Twitter or X, which, who knows? Who knows how true any of that is? But this is what I'm reading, and that's big news. So I just kind of want to give a shout out to Lockheed Martin, one of the shows we're partnered with. You'd think people would have like caught on to that by now, but I think people just aren't really. If you don't know, we're very close with Lockheed Martin and Mr. Lockheed.
Look, it's time for the once every like 3 months joke that we're part of the deep state.
Yeah, yeah. And Niall, if you don't mind, actually, airplane skin kind of leads me into an email that we got in a sort of roundabout way. Is that weird to say?
Because it'll keep me from talking. Now that you said that, it'll keep me from talking about airplane skin condoms. Well, so hold on. Okay,
I don't want to move on from that. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, there's a brand of condoms called Skin, SKYN, and I just think it would be funny if we used airplane skin with a bunch of sensors and stuff and made like aerodynamic, flight ready condoms.
Okay, skin
that are also very thin enough so that you feel everything.
This is like the Mile High Club, like designed condoms.
See, that's the slogan: a Mile High Club for your penis.
Well, wait, hold on. I thought that's what the Mile High Club was, right? You getting laid on an airplane? Is that not?
Well, it is. It's like fucking at altitude, but this is specifically like it turns your penis into a Mile High Club.
Oh, cool. Okay, I like that. Yeah. I see. When you this is, I think, going to be very illustrative of like our mental processes and how we think about things, because I was waiting to hear what your take on the airplane skin penis condom, whatever. I was like, oh, let's hear Nile out about the airplane skin condom. Mm-hmm. And on my end, I just assumed that people were going to be hunting down airplanes and killing them and skinning them to use as condoms, like how people used to do with sheep, or maybe they still do.
Well, I mean, that can be part of the production,
right.
like that. I'm not explaining like the manufacturing process so far.
It's sort of like
maybe that's that.
But that seems a little cannibalistic as an industry, right? Like, we want you to get on the airplane and fuck, and your dick's the life of the party a mile high up, but also you have to hunt down and kill and skin these beautiful, beautiful airplanes that provide you with the material for making our condoms that we use in this way.
It really does put the sexual accessories industry in direct opposition to the airline industry in a weird way. Which it can only be good for competition.
You know what? That's true. This is capitalism. This is what it's all about. It's all about.
Yeah, this is a free market at work, baby. David Cronenberg presents airplane skin condoms.
So speaking of skin.
Yeah,
Nile,
what's up?
We got an email, and here's what it says.
Oh, good.
And if you remember, we talked about dinosaurs not too long ago on my Sea Monster episode, I believe. Mm-hmm. And we got this email, which this is email number 1. It is in before the 3 email cutoff. So fucking get a move on, people. But here's what it says.
I'm glad you remembered the bit.
Thank you. It says, hi there, longtime listener and dinosaur scientist. Now, I read that and I thought to myself, you're a longtime listener, but are you a newer dinosaur scientist?
When did you become a dinosaur scientist?
But regardless, I'm amazed that there is a dinosaur scientist listening to our podcast. That is like... crazy.
That is maybe the coolest. What do they call that thing? Like the Chiron or whatever, when someone's being interviewed and they have like their name and then their job. Yeah. Longtime listener and dinosaur scientist is like an all-timer.
I love that. Well, they say, excited to finally have a reason to write in and feed you guys. Hopefully I beat the 3 email cutoff. Oh, we'll look at that. And they say, we actually know a lot more about dinosaur skin and have impressions from a wide variety of species, including well-known ones like Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, Carnotaurus, Diplodocus. We also have some specimens that preserved more than bits and pieces and instead are sort of fossilized mummies. Some famous specimens are Ankylosaur, Borealopelta, and several hadrosaurs. And I clicked on these links. They sent links. And I saw like mummified dinosaur like skins with the bite marks, and it says some are even so well preserved that we can make an educated guess about their colors and patterns. In short, most dinosaurs had a mixture of large and small scales. Many dinosaurs did have feathers, but so far as we know, only certain groups within the bipedal carnivorous family theropods. We also have some fantastic specimens of these, including some indicating colors and patterns, but feathers require very special conditions to fossilize. We do have skin from some marine reptiles which aren't related to dinosaurs, such as mosasaurs, which would have also been scaly and lizard-like. Fun fact, living dinosaur cryptids almost always are based on outdated information about how prehistoric animals would have looked. Some good examples are sauropods living in water, Mokele mbembe, naked and scaly pterosaurs, they were actually fairly fuzzy, and plesiosaurs vertically sticking their necks out of their water, which their necks couldn't bend that way. Hope this helps and happy to help with any questions. All the best, Brad. So thank you, Brad. That's awesome. That's the kind of email I like to see. And I don't want to, if you've emailed us and we've read it on the show before, I don't want to make it sound like there's like a competition to send in like the coolest email. But if there was, I would say this is in the running for the coolest email we've gotten. So, I guess just, send cooler emails more often is sort of the lesson.
No, I love all our emails equally, but getting one from a dinosaur scientist that actually has a lot of interesting information about, the idea that like Nessie is just based on a thing that has never happened is pretty funny to me. So that was cool as shit. Thank you.
It does sort of make sense to me that like a lot of because like my knowledge of what dinosaurs look like is probably outdated. Like, I'm not keeping up with that. Like, I think the last time I would have remembered getting like a major update on like what we know about dinosaur prior to this email would have been like high school or college. Like that's about the time when I would have picked up on something like that.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it makes sense that in sort of the common conception of these things that there's a lot of people operating off of outdated information and making these assumptions that are very outdated. So that's, yeah, I think that makes sense. And I guess, and I also another point against living dinosaurs, unfortunately, but you know, who's counting?
Yeah. So yeah, living dinosaurs may not still be around, except unless you just like want to call birds that. Like, that's fine if you want to be like cute like that, you know. Yeah. So we're not talking about dinosaurs today.
Okay.
I don't know how exactly to cross over into this, but it's not dinosaur related. However, I did stay in the realm of cryptid because I ran across this thing that was like, first of all, it's kind of local to me. I found a Maryland cryptid that I found kind of engaging. Today, Kyle, we're going to talk about the Goatman of Prince George's County.
Interesting. Now,
yeah.
I feel like we have talked about a Goatman before.
We have. There's one that is very closely related to this thing that we've talked about years ago.
Yeah, I remember that was a while ago, and I seem to recall I don't remember the location, but I recall it like lives under a bridge, maybe.
Mm-hmm. You're thinking of the Pope Lick monster.
Pope Lick, that's what it is.
From Tennessee, if I remember correctly.
You know, the Goatman's a good one because like I feel like Jersey Devil is almost like the OG Goatman in a way because it's obviously it's its own sort of thing, the Jersey Devil, but it has goat-like features, and that's like, I think like when you think of like a lot of cryptid stuff that is like, how do I say this? It's when you think of cryptids, I feel like your first couple thoughts go to Bigfoot, Mothman, and I think goat-like, generally speaking, is like kind of right behind those. At least for me, some sort of goat creature.
I would probably put like Ness. I mean, Nessie's above that Nessie, and stuff, but like, I think your Goatman is in the same realm as like Dogman, where it's your kind of like not a deep cut, but it's like B tier. It's like it's not an A tier cryptid, but it's definitely something that people are vaguely aware of and have heard of. And also there it turns out there are Goatmen in various places. There's one in Texas that I might look into at some point down the road. It seems to be kind of a thing that, you know, the Goatman is franchised at some point.
There's all kinds of Goatmen.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. And I think people who are into Goatmen are really into Goatmen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're not wrong. I will say that because there's a lot of the information in this episode comes from some articles that include interviews with this guy named now I can't remember if his first name is Mike or Matt. It's an M name. Obsasnik is his last name. Who's a kind of who's basically the guy you go to if you want to talk about the Goatman.
Oh,
he's like literally written the book on it, and
sounds like he's kind of obsessed, Nick.
A little bit, yeah. That's definitely something that I would claim. So yeah, so a lot of it comes from this guy. This is also one of those things where the thing that drew me to this is that this is one of those cryptids where it's kind of a cryptid, kind of an urban legend, and there's like 5 different versions of it that are all entirely different from each other. And I find those really interesting in terms of like looking at it from trying to figure out where those different things came from, because this is like, it seems to get hyper local and hyper specific in who believes what about this creature in a way that I find very interesting.
Okay, cool. So lay it on me. Where's this? Where does this story start?
Okay, so there's kind of 2 different starting points if you want to get in, if you want to like look at it. If you go by earliest sighting that has been retroactively attributed to this kind of creature, you can go all the way back to the late 1930s. But if you want the first like canonized, reported sighting that we actually know something, like the sighting actually took place. Whether or not they saw the Goatman is of course up for debate, but the first one of that type took place in 1971.
Okay, interesting.
And this is one of those cases where the encounters are very different. The encounters, they see different things. Like it, just to give you some illustration here, there's a quote that I pulled from an article by Matt Blitz for the Washingtonian from 2015. It says, "There are so many variations on the story of the Prince George's County Goatman that it is nearly impossible to keep them straight. For some, he is but a lonely, angry goat herder who went berserk after finding his beloved goats dead due to teens tampering. To others, he is in the same family as Bigfoot, a mythical beast that roams the earth. And perhaps the most bizarre tale of them all, the Goatman is the result of a ghastly experiment at the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center. The USDA facility has actually been forced to deny that one," which I think is really funny. And I have the quote of the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center denying the existence of the Goatman.
What do you have to do to get, like you said, this is a government facility?
It's a USDA facility.
Okay, so what do you have to do to get like a USDA facility to have to come out and be like, listen, the mythical cryptid has nothing to do with the fucked up experiments going on here?
I think you have to like seed a rumor around the area for like 20 to 30 years that they are somehow responsible for some sort of creature that has, if you believe all of the stories, has a pretty decent body count.
Okay, interesting.
So it like they basically got asked about it so much for different articles, different whatever, that they ended up having to basically issue a statement, which I have here. Spokesperson for the center, Kim Kaplan, says, "We just think it's stupid. People really don't even talk about him. I mean, it's so silly. It's not even something that's joked about. Don't you think he would have retired by now? Is his great-grandson a goat man? Is he collecting Social Security?"
Wait. Hang on a second. Hang on. So when was this statement issued?
I believe in the 90s, if I remember correctly.
So they're operating on like, maybe there is a goat man, but like, what is this, his son? Is this the son of the goat man? Is that what they're saying?
Well, they're saying basically there's no way that one creature has been responsible for every sighting since the 1930s.
Okay.
So, and if it was, it would have to be like a lineage by now.
Okay.
And that is a ridiculous concept. So why are you asking me about a fucking goat man?
Is it a ridiculous concept? Because I don't know about you, but when I look around, I see the offspring legacy everywhere I go. Everybody I know has come from somewhere. So who's to say that a goat man legacy, wasn't created after they experimentally created him? The Goatman went out and got some goat kids going. I mean, you
got to think if we're going to take their statement as fact, because they're talking about the version of the Goatman that they would be responsible for, which is some sort of genetic hybrid between a human and a goat, due to some mad scientist type research. So how does that affect the human reproductive system? Like, if you make a half man, half goat hybrid, how is it making offspring with goats, with humans? Right. Can it do both? Can it do neither? It is just a question for the ages. And when you're looking at something like this, that is a hybrid creature, something you have to take into account if you want it to have children.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you imagine the nightmare scenario though, where like these guys at this place are doing all kinds of like mad scientist shit with goats and people, and they're like, we got the human DNA into the goat DNA and created a monster. And the other guy's like, well, at least it won't have kids. Like it escaped, but it won't have kids. Like normally when we fuck with these chemicals and stuff, there's like a deleterious effect with regards to, reproduction. But then they like check the compounds in the mixture and they're like, oh shit, we made it a fuck machine. Yeah. We made it.
Oh shit.
Oh my God. We mixed a little rabbit in there.
It's 49% goat, 49% human, and 2% sex machine.
Yeah, we really fucked up, and we also it's like when the Professor X was making the Powerpuff Girls. It was goat, human, and absolute horn dog. You know,
Yeah.
like
they just Stacker Z got put into it.
Yeah.
Like or Stacker 3. What the fuck's that stuff called? Gas station speed.
Oh, horny goat weed.
No, that is one of them, but there's like caffeine pills that people use for like fucking and
really?
stuff that like
that seems
yeah.
Sorry, hang on. This is going to derail the whole podcast for about 20 minutes. That seems very counterintuitive. You would take these are caffeine pills?
Yeah.
And it's for
so you have
having
energy
sex.
to fuck.
Okay.
Well, it's also used for truckers to drive all night, but like that's like
and they got to back up in
them.
case they run into like a lot lizard or something or
I mean, teach their own.
Sure, I'm not judging. I just and if you're in cryptid country, that's like an actual lot lizard.
Yeah, like an actual
lizard
fucking
person.
Reptilian. Yeah.
No, that's horny goat weed. I'd like to believe that's harvested from the Goatman. It could be kind of cool.
I think that would be where it's from. Like what do you think? Horny goat weed is just some sort of like plant?
No,
fuck you.
No, fuck you. Oh, sorry. Is that something you believe? Hey, go fuck yourself.
I'm a horny goat weed truther. Okay.
No, they have to every once in a while hunt this guy down, shave him completely nude, and then repackage his fur to sell as horny goat weed. And that's what I believe.
It's like shepherds where they have, all the sheep are just out on the countryside. And then when it's time to shear them, they have to bring them in, process all the wool and everything, and then set them back out naked.
Exactly.
Yeah. So typically, let's talk about what this fucker is.
Okay.
So if you want to look at the kind of if there is a standard version of the Goatman, he's portrayed as kind of a bipedal creature, blending human and goat features. Mm-hmm. The upper body is mostly human, like it's kind of just like a buff dude body, but with goat horns protruding out of its head. And then he boasts kind of furry legs and the hooves of a goat. So you might notice that this is kind of like a traditional satyr or faun.
Yeah.
That is one of the most common descriptions of the creature when you're looking into sightings. Unless it's a couple other things, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
But yes,
that's sort of ominous in a way.
Well, okay. There's a version of it where this is just a dude with an axe.
Right. You kind of implied that there was just like a crazy guy who was angry about his sheep being killed or whatever.
Yeah. Goats.
Or goats.
But,
sorry. That would make. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, this account kind of comes from those 70s sightings that are the main, like they're not the first sightings technically, but they're the first ones that people will talk about. They're the main sightings, is that 1971 sighting, where they just saw what they described as a massive hairy entity standing around 6 feet, walking upright, and it also could move very swiftly on all fours, as mentioned by a Washington Post article from that same time period. It also has the kind of stereotypical cryptid, like whale, like kind of unearthly noise that you hear in the woods, like scream kind of sound,
Yeah.
It's got one of those. And it has a couple other abilities that which I don't know where some of these listed abilities come from in terms of what sightings they're from, because supposedly it can shapeshift and also possesses superhuman strength. The superhuman strength makes some sense for some of the sightings, but I don't know where the shapeshifting comes from, so I have to assume, or at least infer, that comes down to the fact that it has been reported to be both a man and also a half goat, half man, and also so I think that comes from the fact that there's multiple different kinds of creatures that people have claimed this thing to be.
I could see that maybe being, instead of a learned move, maybe coming from a TM that they could use on it, that a trainer might use on it. So that could also be part of the confusion, is that it doesn't.
So he wouldn't be able to use it outside of battle, but just in battle, right?
Well,
that's how that works?
Just that,
because HMs are.
Well, HMs are the ones that are outside of battle. And so I doubt this. First of all, I doubt the Goatman can learn fly. Maybe dig. Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's a big maybe. Probably cut, but that move sucks ass. So why teach your Goatman cut,
Well, sometimes you'll come to a place that you just need to chop down one bush that blocks up a specific square to
you
enter
put it
the
on
next area of the map.
You put it on a zigzagoon, not something as cool as Goatman.
So if you were to make a this isn't a big question, but this but if you were to talk about your like cryptid Pokemon pack, which cryptid would you teach cut to as a utility player?
I feel like there's some sort of mantid that falls under cryptid alien hybrid something under there. Like I think of kind of like one of the especially weird mantid creatures that when I visited you in Baltimore that one time, we did an episode about like mantis beings. I'm sort of picturing that like really weird little fucked up one that did a little dance. If you remember.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm picturing that.
I haven't thought about that in a while.
You don't think about, because I think about that a lot actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like one of the, like, I don't know, something about, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know which episode it is, but like a number, like it's been like almost a year now.
Yeah.
And we recorded this big episode with me, Garrett, Jules, and Nile, and Nile gave us like a grab bag of mantis creatures. And in it, there's a mantis with like one big, it's like it got a big, beautiful eye, and it's like a little freak that like hops around and dances. And I don't know, that story, I'm kind of not describing it well. So go back and check that episode out like a year ago or so. And that's what I would put cut on, is that little freak.
Yeah, that works. That makes sense. I was thinking of like I don't like. I think it would be funny to put cut on a fucking flat. What are the fucking leg boys?
Oh,
I started twiddling my fingers like little legs.
They're the California, the Fresno Nightcrawlers.
Thank you.
I was trying to think of locations in California. I was like, Burbank,
San Francisco 40. Nope.
The Fresno Nightcrawlers. Here's the thing, though, Nile. I almost said like you're gonna say the Fresno Nightcrawlers. Let me throw something at you with that.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of picture, look, and this isn't like, people are gonna take this as me being negative. Cryptid fans out there, negative. I'm not being negative. This is I think actually great. Okay. I don't see the Fresno Nightcrawlers as capable of doing damage. I see them. I see them kind of like maybe a Magikarp type Pokemon, where which, by the way, if people needed to know within these last 5 minutes what the bit is, we're talking about Pokemon. We're pretending cryptids are Pokemon. Just to be clear, for those who maybe don't know what that's.
Was that not clear already?
Well, not everybody's going to get that. Not everybody is necessarily going to know. There's going to be some 60-year-old listening to this episode like, what the fuck? But what I'm saying is they're like Magikarp in that they learn Splash. That's the only thing they can do. But then finally the Fresno Nightcrawler swims up a waterfall and evolves into Gyarados. Is what I'm saying. So like maybe it evolves into something bigger and cooler than and I think they're cute little guys. They're just, I don't see them being capable of cutting anything. So that's my counter argument. Before you even get a chance to explain that you want the Fresno Nightcrawlers to use cut, okay? I'm shutting you down.
Just imagine, but like, okay, just this is all the last thing I'll say on the subject. Just imagine them using cut, but instead of using an arm, which they don't have, it's just a fucking like a roundhouse.
No, and
kick.
I love that
that's
idea.
Pretty great.
Maybe it grows into a much bigger Fresno Nightcrawler when it evolves.
Fresno Night Runner.
I like that. That's I can't like come up with the way to pivot that into a Homestar Runner bit, and it's probably for the best.
Yeah.
So
is Homestar Runner a fucking? I never thought about that, but he's
kind of like a Fresno Nightcrawler,
white leg boy.
He is, yeah. I'm just now realizing that Homestar is a cryptid. In fact, maybe all of them are, because like there's humanoid cryptids. Maybe Strongbad is some sort of cryptid.
Strongbad's a Hopkinsville goblin.
Yeah, Strongsad's a fucking Frankenstein. I can say that much. Yeah. Or Strong Mad. Did I say Strong Mad?
Yeah, you said Strong Sad.
And then okay.
Who's an elephant man.
Right. Well, Strong Sad's like, yeah. And Bubs is, oh God, some sort of interdimensional entity. Let's be real.
The Poopsmith is the Sandown Clown.
Hey, your job this week, if you are confused, listener, at all about anything we're doing right now, go ahead and Google Pokemon and then Google Homestar Runner.
The fact that you're saying Google Pokemon on this podcast is really funny to me.
That's always my suggestion. So Google it up.
Yeah. So there's you mentioned earlier with about the Pope-like monster that it lives under a bridge. There is a bridge that this guy supposedly lives under in some stories. It's called the Crybaby Bridge or the Governor's Bridge. It's the official name is the Governor's Bridge. People call it the Crybaby Bridge because of the whole Crybaby Bridge phenomenon. You know?
I was gonna say, isn't a Crybaby Bridge a ghost thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so it lives by a ghost bridge thing, right?
Effectively, yes. Okay. In a cave underneath a ghost bridge. Yes.
Okay.
But it also might live in an abandoned house near a Catholic middle school.
Okay, sure. Why not?
So yeah. That's one version of it. This version is recounted on a Patch.com article from 2011 by Jake Ganny. Basically, there's a house near St. Mark the Evangelist Middle School that some sort of Goatman hybrid has been seen in and around this house. Various students have claimed to found bones in the house, along with supposedly knives, saws, and various leftover food. However, in the last, I don't know exactly when, but the supposed house of the Goatman was demolished sometime in the last 2 decades. It survived, I think, into the 90s, but I don't have an exact date on it. But it kind of just became a boogeyman thing for a lot of the students of this middle school. One of the students was quoted as saying, "Ever since I started at St. Mark's, I've heard stories of a goat man in our own backyard. During recess, kids would dare each other to hop the fence and go into his house. No kids would ever do it, but as we grew up, the goat man turned into kind of a joke. It could be real or it could all be an elaborate hoax."
You know, okay, so I love that, one. Two, when in elementary school, we always had the story that the theater at our school was haunted, which you spend a little bit of time in there and you can see why people would kind of feel that. Our elementary school theater was haunted. Did you have anything like that? Like your elementary school people claiming something was haunted or because I think it would be cooler to have a cryptid than a haunting, but we just had a ghost.
We didn't have a haunting at my elementary school, but we had this patch of woods that people would run and run. It was a little beyond the soccer fields and stuff, where people would kind of go do mischief and shit. That if you could slip out from under the observers and stuff. But I don't think we had anything haunted until people said our high school's auditorium was haunted as well.
I'm trying to picture.
I never heard anything about that, but
I'm trying to picture the high school
supposedly a thing.
Auditorium again. But I kind of remember hearing people say that.
Yeah.
See, we didn't have forest near our elementary school, playground or anything. It was a big open field, and then the closest forest was beyond this water processing plant. This water treatment plant. So we didn't have, so I imagine if we had nearby woods, we could have probably had a cryptid story given birth there, but it was all about a ghost in the auditorium. So, but now I'm thinking about if you wanted, high school and trying to remember
if you wanted a cryptid in our hometown, you got to go Mill Race.
Right. Well, Mill Race has a couple.
The Mill Race monster,
and we also got the Beast of Busco, I think is his name.
That guy's from a little north of us, I think.
Yeah, that's the. It gets brought up in our hometown, but he's a turtle cryptid, a giant turtle. There's a couple things around it. The thing that's kind of a bummer about trying to explore Indiana cryptids is we've talked about a few of them before. Most of them are just these really brief, small stories. We don't have anything with Maybe we do, and I'm just not aware of it. But I haven't found anything that has like a long storied history and legend surrounding it. Just a handful of weird stories, and so
yeah, that's why it ended. When I tried to do it, it ended up being like 3 in one episode.
Yeah,
just because like
I remember
you end up just there's like 2 sightings, and then someone says it's a hoax, and then someone says it isn't, and that's like all you really get.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, if let's get more into some of the other kind of origins. This is kind of a scattershot approach because this is just like a bunch of fucking different stories and stuff. So, if you want to talk about the kind of hybrid version, here is the story of where that thing came from. There was a doctor named Dr. Stephen Fletcher who worked for the USDA Research Center in Beltsville, Maryland. He supposedly was doing experimentation trying to fuse animal and human DNA when something went horribly wrong, and he created what we now know as the Goatman. No one exactly knows why or like what but supposedly the Goatman is either him in kind of a fly situation where he did it to himself, or people think that it was he made it by crossing the DNA of a goat with his assistant named William Lotsford. And now that guy is just hell bent on revenge and going on a rampage and stuff like that. So like that's kind of one origin story for it. There's also another story that that Lotsford just did it to himself. Basically there's been a telephone game with this story, so there's kind of a couple different versions. But typically it's Fletcher did it to Lotsford. Lotsford is the Goatman, and he might live in this house near a middle school and terrorize children. The other thing, there are some people that claim that even the goat hybrid guy carries around an axe, especially when you get into some of there's a sighting from the 1960s where the body count comes from, where people kind of link that into that story, which we'll talk about that more in here a little bit. But there's the other main haunt for this thing is that Crybaby Bridge, which is about 20 minutes away from the middle school. I just looked. I was trying to figure out if there's are these all concentrated around one place, or is it kind of spread out? The 2 main places this thing supposedly lives are approximately like 24 minutes via Google Maps away from each other.
Okay.
So it kind of all is focused on this one area, as far as I can tell.
Now, here's my question: are you going to visit? Yeah. You going to check it out?
Kyle, there was until 2018. There was a Goatman haunted house that ran seasonally.
That would have been cool.
And it shut down in 2018, and they keep saying they're going to try to come back, but it never happened.
Oh, bummer.
So I wish, but I might go check out the Governor's Bridge at some point, because I don't know if there's anything around there, but it might be worth looking around,
Hey, I just love getting photos at spooky locations. Like, I cannot stress how excited I was to go and find all the crazy shit at the Denver airport after we did that episode. Mm-hmm. So I just like that stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, there was the other Maryland cryptid that I did a while ago that I need to go check out that stuff as well. There's a couple things that I need to go check out at some point.
When I come back, we got to go see Ingo Swan's exhibit.
Yes, I'll take you to the American Visionary Arts Museum, which is a really cool place, and has Ingo Swan's books and paintings. So, in the story of him living under the Crybaby Bridge, his preferred targets seem to be young couples who dare kind of go to this bridge to make out. This seems to be kind of a lover's lane kind of area. So if you park beneath the bridge once the sun has set, you'll supposedly hear the sounds of a baby crying or the sounds of a goat braying, or kind of yelling. And then suddenly out of nowhere, the Goatman will supposedly just kind of be upon you, leaping onto your car and attacking it and trying to rip you out of your seat. It's said that he targets couples mostly, but also other reports say that he goes after pets and even breaks into people's houses, dragging victims back into the forest. I didn't find any of those sightings. I did not find one where the Goatman broke into someone's house and dragged them into the forest. They might be out there, but it's not one of the big common sightings.
This is just one of those things that people claim can happen.
Yes. But so if anyone ever finds a Goatman story with that, please send it to me because I would enjoy it. There's also just kind of nebulous, unresolved disappearances in the area that people use to kind of bulk up the story of the Goatman. I didn't find a lot of specifics where like, oh, this person went missing on this date and people blame the Goatman. It's just kind of a nebulous, unexplained disappearances in the area kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now let's get into some specific sightings. The first sighting that I found, so the one in the 1930s was basically just like a kind of urban legendary thing of some people seeing the creature. It didn't, not even like the creature specifically. They saw a large animal that people then retroactively linked to the Goatman. But the first actual Goatman sighting that I could find took place in August of 1957. Where two witnesses claim to have been attacked by the creature in the Forestville, Upper Marlboro area.
Is that where they make the cigarettes? Or
I really don't know. I should look into that, but it didn't. I didn't end up looking into that. But this is one of the kind of Crybaby Bridge ones because it's a young couple was hanging out at a local makeout spot near this dark wooded area just off the street. And it was in the evening, and they started to hear this loud banging on their car hood. And they looked up to see this large, hairy horned creature with a double-bladed axe in its hand.
Oh.
It glared at them menacingly before fleeing into the woods.
Didn't the Poplick monster have an axe or something?
I think he did. At least in some stories he might have.
Huh, okay. Maybe, okay.
So I guess Goatmen just like weapons.
Yeah.
Is there any other cryptid that specifically like uses weapons?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like, do you count Bigfoot throwing rocks at people?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like projectiles and stuff with Bigfoot, sure.
Yeah. I don't know, but like I don't know too many that are just wielding an axe. It's normally a human thing to do.
Yeah, which is why like this thing kind of appealed to me because it's so urban legendy, but it also gets lumped into cryptid lore in a way that just is kind of fun, and it just I like the idea of a Goatman wielding a massive axe. So yeah, it fled off into the woods, and then a few nights later, a man and his wife who lived nearby reported seeing a hairy wild man, quote unquote, going through their trash. Following these encounters, members of the local fire department, along with some local hunters, organized a search of the area for what they deemed an abominable phantom, but were unable to find anything. Additional sightings kept being reported in the following weeks, but nothing kind of really that momentous, leading authorities to eventually declare the whole thing a hoax. There then was another similar sighting a couple years later with a young couple. They say being romantically involved in their car.
They were fucking.
Take that as you will. Yeah.
Okay.
But this one did move it to another location just off Zug Road, which I didn't look into exactly where that was. But the main next big sighting takes place in 1962. And this is one of the big ones because in this sighting, the Goatman is accused of killing 14 people, 12 of whom are children.
Oh,
the other two being adult chaperones.
Okay. Yeah. Now,
and
you'll explain.
Go ahead.
No. I imagine you'll explain it. So go ahead.
So this story moves the location to the house. So this is we've moved his base of operations. Maybe he moved after a while under Crybaby Bridge to this other place, but this group was hiking in the woods near the Goatman's home, and the unidentified survivors claimed that the Goatman hacked the victims to pieces with an axe while also making noises that, quote, only the devil himself could make. When police arrived, they supposedly found half-eaten limbs and a bloody trail leading to a cave. Now, I could not find any actual record.
And that was going to be my question. That was going to be my question is, did anybody find a dozen children get murdered in this area and in one fell swoop? And I was kind of guessing probably not.
Yeah, this is the last one that is, as far as I can tell, almost entirely apocryphal.
Yeah.
This story will get cited in a very short version in a lot of Goatman reports you read online because it's part of the lore, but I couldn't find any actual evidence of it. Other people could not find any actual evidence of it. So take that one with a grain of salt.
Good. So that's plus 12 children still alive in this world because the Goatman didn't manage to get them. Now,
so here, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, where does this whole thing about, because like this is a horror movie monster, right? Like where does this whole thing come from of like needing to attack teens who are, getting frisky in a car or whatever? Like,
I'm kind of glad you asked that because I have that will be addressed later on.
Wow. Okay. I kind of didn't expect that to be a thing that you hadn't. I kind of just expected you being like a horror movie, I'll say it, nerd.
Yeah.
Just like have an idea of like where, because like I would like my cheap assumption is that like it would be a way to get like TNA in a movie for like a cheap, shitty horror movie. But it's also not. It's also just kind of become like a. I don't know. Well, I guess we can get into that. But I was just kind of wondering because like here it seems to me that this is horror movie tropes crossing over into mythology and legend about a cryptid. That's how it seems to me at least.
Yeah, so. and like the thing that I will say is like the horror movie tropes you're talking about are before they were horror movie tropes, they were urban legend tropes.
Sure.
And that will kind of play into the theory behind where these things came from that we'll talk about later. So the guy that I was trying to remember his name earlier, Mark Obsasnik, he is pretty heavily referenced in the Washingtonian article I referenced earlier, and is one of the biggest sources for information on the Goatman. So this leads us to his kind of hunt for information about this, along with the earliest actual confirmed sightings and confirmed media reports on the subject, which took place starting in October of 1971. There was an article in the Prince George's County News written by Karen Hosler, which took information from the University of Maryland Folklore Archives, which I also we'll talk about more a little bit later, because I think it's reading into it seems cool as shit. The paper in the archives that was used as a source was actually an undergraduate research paper by a University of Maryland student named George Lizama that chronicled the folklore of the creature. So basically, this was already an urban legend by the time these articles hit, but this is where the like record of note begins, so to speak. So the newspaper article mentions the Goatman along with some local ghosts and another creature called the Boa Man that's supposed to haunt the woods around Fletchertown Road, which is another kind of place that a lot of sightings happen.
I've not heard of the Boa Man, but now I'm curious.
I haven't either. I saved that one to look into later because it's a cryptid I've never heard of before, which is, I'm not saying I've heard of every cryptid, but it's becoming increasingly rare for an entirely new cryptid to come across for me. So 2 weeks later, another newspaper article followed entitled "Residents Fear Goatman Lives." Dog found decapitated in Old Bowie.
Oh no!
And this is the first confirmed sighting linked to the Goatman. Okay. Unfortunately,
right. So I don't think I even need to say it at this point. We can just keep going.
Here's the story directly from the article from 1971. On the frosted morning of November 4th, two 20-year-old kids, William Geen and John Hayden, had gone searching for Ginger, a German Shepherd puppy belonging to April Edwards, the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lacey Daniels, with whom Geen was currently residing. The puppy had escaped from its Zug Road pen the night before and was probably wandering around the neighborhood looking for trouble. But the boys, who would later report seeing an animal-like creature that walks on its hind legs and hearing a high-pitched squeal the night before, didn't have to look far to find the dog, or at least what remained of the juvenile canine.
Oh, no.
As Geen and Hayden casually walked into the backyard in the direction of the Penn Central Railroad train tracks, they spotted something in the grass. Geen and Hayden found the cleanly severed head of the family dog.
Oh my God.
And even worse
Jesus.
was that what the two young men didn't find that morning, the rest of the family dog's corpse.
Oh my, what the fuck?
Yeah. So the first actual reported sighting of the Goatman is just some 20-somethings finding a decapitated dog head.
Fucked up, man. That's fucked. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look,
so this is what became the beginning of the peak era for the Goatman in terms of like stories and mythology building, which took place kind of in the 70s and early 80s.
I just want to say that we've had everybody who listens to this show for a while knows that dogs tend to die in these stories, which is terrible. Mm-hmm. And we've had some in the past that are surprising, you know, some that were tinged in a darkly funny way. I still think about the fact that the Maury Island UFO that supposedly exploded dropped shrapnel and exploded a dog when it landed, which supposedly happened. But this is fucking grim. What the hell? Sorry. I know we could just move on, but like, that's fuck. Like, is this like a report that you can verify? And like, did they ever figure out? I don't know. That's just so. That's fucked.
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So the article connected the deceased dog with the Goatman, saying that a group of teenage girls, including the Edwards' 16-year-old daughter April, had heard strange noises and seen that large creature. And then this article kind of led to a bigger article written by the Washington Post entitled "A Legendary Figure Haunts Remote Prince George Woods," which kind of did a little bit more research with the young men who had found Ginger, along with talking to the county police, who were quoted as saying, "The legend just gets passed on from generation to generation," when asked about the Goatman sightings. So this was, you know, it continued to kind of grow in local estimation, and Obsasnik started to get really into it in 1987 when he started writing for what's Strange Magazine. And he ended up writing an article that would later get extended into a book entitled "On the Trail of the Goatman" in 1994. He actually tracked down the Edwards family and the various other men who found Ginger and interviewed them. And John Hayden told Obsasnik that he and the others had seen an animal the night before they found the dog's head, and it was approximately 6 feet tall, walked on 2 feet, and was very hairy, and it made a high-pitched sound like a squeal. He also said in the same interview with Obsasnik, "Everybody around here was complaining about it. Strange things going on around here. It was seen on Fletchertown Road, mainly in the area of High Bridge Road. We had sightings of it here, me and Willie Geen, my brother-in-law. We seen it back in the fields located across the the railroad tracks from 8510 Zug Road, just before it got dark. It was a long time ago, 1971. And then he describes a little bit more. So April was also interviewed and said that people came here and called it folklore, and the papers made us out to be ignorant hillbillies who didn't know any better. But what I saw was real, and I know I'm not crazy. Whatever it was, I believed it killed my dog."
Yikes. I mean,
yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think a Goatman killed this dog, but like, I don't know. What the hell is going to be out there that can behead a dog other than like a person? You know, like...
The leading theory is not a person.
Really?
But we'll get to it.
Okay.
I have what I don't normally think that I fully can explain anything that we talk about on this show. Like, a lot of times there's a guess.
Yeah.
But that specific story, there's a very understandable and unfortunate reason.
Let me guess.
That we'll talk about.
The dog ran really hard and fast at a thin wire that was strung up.
And yeah, someone had razor wire between two trees, and the dog got excited.
That shit happens all the time.
No, so later, much later, Obsasnik talked to the brother. I'll just say it now, and we'll move on to some other sightings after we talk about this.
Okay.
So, how you can explain that sighting is supposedly the brother of John Hayden said that basically his brother made this whole thing up to scare and piss off a local woman that they didn't like. But they what it actually was they ran towards the train tracks. A fucking train ran into this dog and knocked its body off.
No, oh my God. That's like that almost worse than my joke. Holy shit.
It is supposedly in reality an unfortunate meeting between a dog and a train.
That sucks ass. Rest in peace, Ginger.
Now, there was some stuff about this. He also was linking it to the kind of wild guy thing. And said that guy was buried at a cemetery just up the hill and they couldn't find him at all. So there's some weird stuff with these people that I don't fully trust anything any of these people are saying, but I do think that is the most likely candidate for what happened there.
Well, so I have good news. Ginger's up in heaven smiling down on all of us.
Yeah. So there are a couple more just kind of quick sightings. In 1973, a man was driving along Route 32, and he reportedly saw a huge beast on two legs with glowing eyes. So now we have glowing eyes added to the picture. A few years later, a woman reported seeing a grayish-brown, round-shouldered animal with reflective red eyes cross the road in front of her car on Route 198, and then step over the guardrail and disappear. In April of 1977, a NASA engineer witnessed a Bigfoot-type creature tossing a dog onto the road at I-95 and Powder Mill Road in Beltsville, which is a suburb of Baltimore, I believe. Over the next decade, there were quite a few more reports of a Goatman attacking cars, dogs, attacking cars with dogs. Supposedly,
you mean it's picking up dogs and hitting cars with them?
This is the direct quote from the website that I found this. Throwing dogs off overpasses along stretches of Interstate 495 seemed to have been a favorite pastime during the 80s. Now, I didn't find a lot of those sightings. This was just something that got summarized in the way that I just described it on a lot of things. So I'm sure there's a book. If I picked up Obsasnik's full book, there are probably more detailed sightings in it and stuff, but I didn't find a lot of detailed sightings of this thing throwing dogs at cars in the 80s.
Jesus. Have you ever read the story about... my memory of this is hazy. I'd have to go look it up. But I remember reading a story, and I think this is in the UK somewhere, that there is a location that has a bridge that for whatever reason, or maybe it's not a bridge, for whatever reason, dogs jump to their deaths very, very regularly at this location.
No, I don't know about this.
I'd have to go look it up. It is horrifying, but I remember reading about it forever ago and being like, that's fucking weird. And I'm sure there's some sort of explanation for it, but maybe it's a Goatman sort of scenario. Who knows?
Yeah. So then there was kind of a lull of sightings until the year 2000 when some construction workers claimed to have come face to face with a, quote, 300-pound, 7-foot-tall furry creature that had the legs, hooves, and horns of a goat, but the upper body of a man near the town of Bowie, Maryland. Then there was kind of another lull until there was... I didn't go too deep into this, but there was a clip that went somewhat viral in 2015 of a YouTube channel explaining the Goatman that led to kind of another series of sightings in the kind of now TikTok generation. It was a channel called Strange Mysteries that did a video on the Goatman that led to a mini viral resurgence in 2015. What is okay, Kyle? Your webcam is just going from pitch dark to blinding you with white. What the fuck are you looking at?
Oh, I just found an article titled "What's Really Going On at the Dog Suicide Bridge." So,
oh my God.
Sorry, I'm here, but I also was I should look that up so that I don't, because if I put that out in the world and people are that doesn't exist, that didn't happen, you're making that up, and I'm just crazy and misremembering something from a movie or a book, then I'll feel really, really, really insane that I threw out this thought without anything to back it up. So I had to look, and it is in fact,
you had to double check. Yeah,
it is in fact a place in Scotland.
Gotcha.
Called Overton Bridge. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that what the Overton window is?
Yeah.
How long it takes a dog to jump off it?
It's actually the amount of time between the dog's leap and it hitting the ground.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
This episode's going dark.
So okay. Sorry.
Hey, I led you there. Okay. So here, this thing kind of took on another life in the 80s, where these signs and like spray painted tags started to appear various places, like on refrigerators, picket fences, dying trees, most bearing the words "Goatman was here." A lot of them was like, a lot of it was in red paint for some reason. And this led to the a new variation coming up where I think this is what birthed this guy's just actually a lunatic thing came from, really. Because a guy who lived in the Prince George's County area in the Seabrook Lanham area of that, named John Roman, described the local version being that in our area, he was a shaggy, unkempt hermit who carried a hatchet. His main territory was between Glendale and Bowie, bordered by the then Pennsylvania Railroad tracks. So there are these sites that he claims that is kind of the version that was told in his area. So it seems like it kind of morphed throughout time in both location and type of creature. And I find that fun.
Yeah. No, that's I like that. It kind of reminds me of some of the werewolf stuff we've covered where like it kind of went from like crazy man, scary man, hermit type deal into like shape-shifting man, given like some sort of like, paranormal like object that helps them shapeshift, to just straight up, this is a person bit by a monster that transforms. Like it just like changes over time throughout history. I like that stuff too.
Yeah. So the resurgence of this in the 80s led to some stuff where it became like a full-on like boogeyman for local teens. And supposedly, so I read accounts of people who lived in the area at the time saying that basically like before or after football games on Friday nights, you would all gather in your cars and go Goatman hunting, where you would just like drive through the fucking woods in your cars with your friends, like looking out for the fucking Goatman, and it became like a local pastime.
I love that.
Which led to a newspaper article for the Bowie High School paper in 1986 entitled "Goatman Mania Hits Bowie." And
this is when David Bowie really got into it.
Yeah. There's an illustration that accompanied this article that claims the Goatman's, quote, known friends were Satan, Sasquatch, Mr. Monty, Hitler, Burl Ives, Zamfir, Shepherds, and other.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So this thing kind of like turned into this local weird thing that just like was like a trend. It was like it went viral in like the high schools of like suburbs in Maryland.
That is,
but this is the quote that I think was really funny about them going like Goatman hunting. The people of Fletchertown Road must have put up with hell over the years. There would be beer cans all over the road. It was an event. If there was a Friday night football game, you would end the evening cruising for the Goatman.
wait, hang on. Hold up. You can't say cruising for the Goatman. That implies something a little different.
Yeah, I'm assuming cruising just means going out driving, not like gay sex here. Right, we're not talking about like the movie Cruising.
Okay, that's because that could be confusing for some people. You tell somebody, "Oh, we're cruising for Goatmen," and they're like, "Hell yeah!" And then they go and they drive around with rifles, and they're like, "This is not at all what I fucking thought it was."
They get their poppers and their Stacker 3, and then everyone else just like brings a baseball bat, and they're very confused.
Yeah, not super stoked, and not what they signed up for.
Yeah. So that's like most of the actual stories. There's some other accounts and stuff you'll find, but that's the main gist. And I want to talk a little bit about this kind of explanation that I found for all of this phenomenon that I found this really interesting. So this comes from Dr. Barry Pearson, who is a professor of folklore in the English department at the University of Maryland. He runs the University of Maryland Folklore Archives, which is where this, like, the 1971 stories started to come from. And he was quoted as saying, "If I mention the Goatman on the first day of class, all the locals know exactly what I'm talking about." Like, he claims that this is like a local thing that people know about. So his theory is basically he thinks that the legend of the Goatman was influenced by the rise of car culture in the late 50s and 60s up through the 70s, because it gave teens the freedom to discover the world around them and have some independence in a way that they didn't really previously. He also thinks that it was tied to when students were learning about Greek culture and the half-man, half-goat god Pan. He thinks that like there was this kind of thing where you had the freedom that you now have from teenagers having cars more readily available and like cruising around in the woods and seeing. There's a quote that I don't know if I kept in here, but it was something along the lines of deer become monsters and monsters become goatmen or something. Basically,
Sure.
like when you're like scared driving through the woods at night and you see something in the corner of your eye that is a deer, it's very easy for your brain to turn it into something bigger than it is. He also notes that the Goatman's rise matched the U.S.'s 1970s satanic panic wave, and with Christian fundamentalism growing along with fears of the occult really kind of growing in popularity, this spurred legends about devil worship and half-human, half-goat monsters. I
straight up almost made a joke at the start of this episode that was like, how do we know there isn't another option for this creature, which is that it is the spawn of Satan? Because like a Goatman is like a classic satanic image, really. Mm-hmm. So he just thinks that like you look at the kind of change in youth culture mixed with the satanic panic, and you end up with the local boogeyman being a half goat, half man satanic figure. That does make sense. That does, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And now when it comes to the cryptozoologist side of this thing, there are people that there's this kind of like, if I fully believe the way the article is written, there was at one point kind of a tiff in the cryptozoology community and the urban and the folklore community, because there are a lot of people that just wanted to call all of the Goatman stories as just another Bigfoot sighting, and this was kind of like seen as, like this kind of pissed off locals that were into the Goatman. Because like, oh, you're taking the thing that's ours and just turning it into another version of this other thing, whatever you want to call it.
Flattening out the whole cryptid experience.
Yeah. And this kind of, started a little bit of a tiff between local enthusiasts and the cryptid community at large. There also are other people that think that this is either the same creature or a similar creature to the Pope-Lick monster, along with the other Goatmen in places like Texas, and I think there's one in like Georgia or something. In looking this up, I found out there's Goatmen fucking everywhere.
There are Goatmen fucking everywhere. And you can take that to the bank.
So, that's like the most. I mean, the actual like justification for this is the biggest sighting was actually a dog getting hit by a train, and a lot of the other ones are just like local urban legends that don't have a lot of stuff to back them up. So there's not a lot to like discount or anything. There's not like a lot to explain. It's just a lot of
legends,
local made up stories.
Urban legends.
Yeah, it's a lot of legends.
Yeah, classic.
So in terms of like how this is seen at the community at large. So turns out there was an X-Files graphic novel where Mulder and Scully go to Prince George's County on the trail of the Goatman.
Really?
It also pops up in the show Supernatural.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's also an episode of the Discovery Channel series entitled Animal X that tackles the Goatman. There's like websites and stuff that devoted to it. It also supposedly, I didn't do a lot of research into this, but one place claimed that it was the inspiration for the creature in the movie The Bye-Bye Man.
What? Okay. Sorry. I can't hear the name of that movie and not
the Pee Poo
Man. Just kind of laugh at it. But I mean, I know basically next to nothing about that movie anyways. So, hey, this might as well be one more thing that I know about the movie other than the Pee Poo Man bit.
Now, there is an actual Goatman movie as well entitled Deadly Detour that I think is like
I think I've heard of that actually.
Indie.
Yeah.
So, and that seemingly takes from more of the human, goat herd that was wronged kind of maniac methodology.
Sure.
Partially, if I, it was stated partially due to budget. They didn't have the budget to make a big fucking creature. So they went with the more humanized version. Now, the last thing I want to quickly talk about is just I found some information about the University of Maryland Folklore Archives that I just thought was really fun. It might be like one of my favorite things that I came across while researching this. A lot of this the information here was taken from a Washington Post article from 2000, where the University of Maryland Folklore Archives seems to basically be made up of like boxes and boxes that are like unsorted, that are just tales told to students during interview sessions conducted for various college assignments and credits. So basically, this is just like enthusiasts going out and taking in local folklore and just like recording stories, going out and recording people's sightings, stories of whatever creature they might have seen, whatever local folklore, to try to preserve kind of the local folklore, which I think is like a thing worth doing. I think that's a cool thing to do. And supposedly this archive has led to, without this archive, we wouldn't have stories of either the Goatman or the Bunny Man. Because like the origin of both of those creatures comes from stories in this archive, supposedly, which I honestly just think is cool. Like, I think that's like a cool thing that should be lauded. So I'm I might have to go see if I might have to look into how you get access to the University of Maryland Folklore Archives.
I've like, that would be a really cool thing. Like, that's still something on my list to do, of like going somewhere where I can access stuff like that. Like, I remember going through like newspaper like archives at our library in our hometown for a school project, and not appreciating how crazy that was. And now it's like, I would see if I could find anything to do with the weird in that stuff. And I wonder, there might be something like that equivalent around where I'm living too. Like maybe, I mean, our library now is like kind of under construction. So like, I don't think it's accessible at the moment, but like maybe I can check out like the library or something and see if they've got stuff like that. But I say you should definitely check that out if you ever feel up for it. That would be cool.
Yeah, because I know where the University of Maryland is. I've been around there, so I just have to see if I can have access to it. So I guess honestly that will bring us to the big question.
All right.
Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
All right. So if you were to make a super low budget indie horror movie about a cryptid and you didn't have the budget for prosthetics for the creature, how would you humanize or anthropomorphize a cryptid into a kind of human serial killer for your movie?
Well, I got a really easy one for you.
Okay.
I think we could go with Mothman pretty easily. Like, Mothman as a humanized serial killer would just be a guy who carries around a lantern and attracts moths, and moths follow him around, and he maybe has like a big moth tattoo, and maybe he has like bright white hair that kind of look like moth antenna. These stylized look like moth antenna. And he could stalk you, and maybe he leaves like a moth's wing on your corpse.
Okay.
And that's the Mothman. And kind of just arbitrarily, but because like I thought you were going to ask me like, I didn't know what you're going to ask me, but for whatever reason, the movie that came to my brain was Groundhog Day. So imagine a Groundhog Day scenario where you're living the same day over and over again, trapped as like the serial killer Mothman, humanized Mothman, comes and kills you every day, and you have to escape his Groundhog Day of Mothman slasher horror. That's like a movie I would watch.
Have you seen Happy Death Day?
I have not. Is that what that is? Is it a
basically?
Oh, shit. Okay, I have not actually seen that.
Only not Mothman. Like
it's a slasher.
It's just like a serial killer, a slasher.
Damn it! Somebody already did the idea. Damn it!
It's a pretty fun movie.
Okay.
Like it's worth a watch. I enjoyed it.
Check it out.
There's also a sequel which I haven't watched, but I was trying to think because like I whenever I do these kinds of questions, I always like try to let you go first so that I don't take the easy one.
Yeah.
But I think that there would be something fun. What we don't have is a lot of wet serial killers.
Okay.
So I think I want to try to make Nessie into one. And basically you would basically just be dealing with like an underwater guy in like a wetsuit.
Yeah.
And wearing like kind of an apparatus on his head with kind of a head poking out of it. And I think that he basically would just be we kind of go a little like meta with it.
When you say
he targets people. Yeah.
Well, when you say apparatus out of his head, what do you mean exactly?
Oh, like that makes like the neck of Nessie up.
Okay.
So like
I wanted to make sure.
Kind of that's
what I thought you were saying.
Neck kind of thing going on here.
Okay. So he has a Nessie device strapped to him, but he's underwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's like a scuba diver guy,
right?
And what he's so his origin is that he's a scuba diver who, when he was learning to dive, he was learning with his dad, and his dad got accidentally like hit in the water by a boat searching for the Loch Ness monster. So he's like. His thing is to get revenge on like the cryptid community.
Sure.
So he basically creates like
a honeypot,
a scenario where people
come.
Yeah, he's a honeypot. He's a Nessie honeypot where he then just brings a bunch of Nessie enthusiasts in and then just picks them off one by one underwater. And I think that would be fun.
That would be good. Yeah, he leaps out of the water and he has a big ass fake Nessie attached to the top of his head. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
And it's like detachable, so he can just like have it floating there, and he can, you know, go around and do whatever he needs to do to set up a trap to kill you. And I think that would be a pretty fun way to go.
You could scare the shit out of you, where like if you ever take something and you submerge it and it's hollow inside, and you just make sure to trap air in it, and you sort of mostly submerge it, and then you let it go and it launches out of the water. He could do that with the Nessie head and scare the shit out of people before he then stabs them to death.
And he also could do that with like an explosive, and it goes up and just like blows somebody up like a boat. That'd be cool.
You know,
I'm going to start plotting the kills out for this movie
and
soon.
Here's the thing: this is why cryptids are so great. Is they're so versatile, and you could just put them. You could make what are they called? Cryptid Dakimakura or whatever those things are called. And turn it into a serial killer like horror movie. And you could like people have already done a lot of a lot of like straight up just the cryptid is the monster in the horror movie, but nobody's thinking. I'll say it now. Nobody's thinking on this level.
Okay,
so maybe it's time to start rethinking what your cryptid horror movie looks like.
I think so.
So,
all right. I think that will probably wrap us up for the week. Unless you have any final thoughts.
Wishing Prince Charles a speedy recovery. I did notice that he's going to be using potions and herbs to instead of chemotherapy.
Elixirs?
So, you know, Godspeed with that.
Hopefully he doesn't get too much horny goat weed going.
Yeah, for real. He's got to cut back on that stuff for a while at least. Anyways, no, that's all I got. I'm ready.
All right, let's take care of some business. If you want to find us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers from Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird and we're probably there.
You can also follow us on Twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird where we go and we play some video games. So come and watch us play some video games sometime, won't you? Email us. We got 2 more slots for emails from the thing that we said in the other episode about how we only want 3 emails. So if you can get those in there, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Check it out. Send us an email, and we might read it on the show. In fact, I would say that 9 times out of 10 we read an email that we get on the show, unless it's fucked up. So definitely shoot us an email.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, we are watching we are doing a show called It Gets Weird TV where we watch weird television. Right now, we are in season 2 of the X-Files. We've been watching some banger episodes with Mulder and Scully. So if that sounds cool, we discuss them and we kind of we do an overview. And so check that out at the $2 tier. And then at the $5 tier, you get another bonus show in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. So you're getting bonus content every single week. And sometimes it's an episode I do. Sometimes it's an episode Nile does. Sometimes it's a movie episode thing that we do. We do a lot of bonus stuff at the $5 tier. Then whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're all hanging out. You can talk to us directly. We're chatting about Bigfoot. We're chatting about UFOs. We're chatting about ghosts, all of it. So check it out. Donate to our Patreon. We also have a $1 tier where you don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, I like your show. Here's a tip. Thanks for doing what you do. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. And thank you for those of you who send us emails. We love you.
Yes.
This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Nile.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.
Peace.